The morning Destiny walked into Jefferson Middle School wearing her stepfather's old army hoodie, she had no idea it would be the day everything changed. It was a Tuesday in October, the kind of gray and cold morning that made the hallways feel smaller than usual, the fluorescent lights humming too loud, the lockers slamming like small explosions. Destiny pulled the sleeves of the hoodie down over her hands the way she always did when she was nervous, and she kept her eyes forward, because keeping your eyes forward was the only way to survive 7th grade at Jefferson. She had worn the hoodie because her own jacket was still damp from the rain the night before, and because the hoodie smelled like the cedar soap Marcus used, and because she missed him in that quiet, hollow way that she didn't have words for yet. Marcus had been deployed for 4 months. Her mother cried sometimes in the kitchen when she thought Destiny was asleep. Destiny never told her she could hear it. She made it to homeroom without incident. That was usually a good sign. But then came lunch. She was carrying her tray across the cafeteria when Tyler Brent stuck his foot out, not quite enough to trip her, but enough to make her stumble. Chocolate milk sloshed over the rim of her cup and landed on the front of the hoodie. Laughter erupted from Tyler's table like it had been waiting all day to get out. "Careful," Tyler said, grinning. "Don't want to mess up your daddy's clothes." More laughter. Destiny set her tray down at the edge of an empty table and grabbed napkins from the dispenser, pressing them against the stain without looking up. "Oh wait," Tyler continued, loud enough for the whole cafeteria to hear, "that's not even your real daddy, is it? Didn't your mom just marry some random dude?" Destiny's hands went still. She had heard worse. She knew she had heard worse. But something about the word random landed differently, like a stone dropped from a height she hadn't expected. Marcus was not random. Marcus was the man who had sat in the emergency room for 6 hours when she broke her wrist at soccer tryouts. Marcus was the man who learned how to braid hair from YouTube videos because her mother worked double shifts on Saturdays and Destiny had a school picture coming up. Marcus was the man who wrote her a letter every week from wherever he was, letters that arrived in olive-colored envelopes with careful handwriting, letters that always ended with the same line, "I'm proud of you," every single day. She picked up her tray and walked to the far end of the cafeteria and sat down alone, and she did not cry, because she had decided 2 years ago that she would not cry in school, and she kept that promise to herself even when keeping it felt like swallowing glass. That afternoon, she told her mother what happened. Her mother, Renee, was still in her scrubs from the hospital, heating up soup on the stove, her face tired in the way it had been tired for 4 months. She listened without interrupting, stirring the soup slowly. When Destiny finished, Renee turned off the burner and sat down at the kitchen table and took both of Destiny's hands in hers. "Baby," she said quietly, "those kids don't know anything about Marcus. And that's not their fault. But it's also not your problem." "It doesn't feel like not my problem," Destiny said. Renee squeezed her hands. I know it doesn't." That night, Destiny wrote Marcus a letter. She told him about Tyler. She told him about the chocolate milk and the laughing. She told him she wasn't sure how to explain him to people who had already decided what he was. She folded the letter into thirds, slid it into an envelope, and pressed it against her chest for a moment before sealing it. Then she sat at her desk and opened the small wooden box where she kept the letters he had sent, and she read 3 of them in a row until she felt less hollow. 2 weeks passed. The cafeteria incident faded into the usual background noise of middle school cruelty. Tyler moved on to other targets. Destiny moved through the hallways in her careful, forward-facing way. She got an A on her history test. She made the soccer team on her second tryout. Small things, good things. She wrote Marcus about the soccer team and imagined him reading the letter somewhere far away, smiling in that quiet way he had. Then one Wednesday morning in November, Renee knocked on Destiny's bedroom door before the alarm went off, and Destiny knew from the sound of the knock, from the particular softness of it, that something had happened. She sat up fast. "Mom." Renee opened the door. She was crying, but she was also smiling, and Destiny had never seen that combination on her mother's face before, and for one long terrifying second she did not know what it meant. "He's coming home," Renee said. "Early. He's okay. He's coming home Friday." Destiny got out of bed and walked straight into her mother's arms, and they stood there in the doorway of the bedroom holding each other and not saying anything else, because there was nothing else that needed to be said. Friday came the way good things always seem to come, too fast and too slow at the same time. They drove to the small regional airport 40 minutes from their house, Renee gripping the steering wheel with both hands, Destiny sitting in the back seat with Marcus's last letter in her jacket pocket. The airport was full of other families doing the same thing, holding signs and flowers, and small children who were too young to understand exactly what was happening but old enough to understand that something important was. When Marcus walked through the arrivals gate, he looked thinner than she remembered, and he walked with a slight stiffness that was new, and there was something different in his eyes, something older and quieter. But when he saw them, that thing changed, opened up into something warm and immediate, and he crossed the distance between them in long quick strides and caught Renee first and then reached out and pulled Destiny in with his other arm, and the three of them stood there together in the middle of the airport while people moved around them like water around a stone. "Got your letter," he said quietly into the top of Destiny's head. "The one about the kid at school." She nodded against his shoulder. "We'll talk about it," he said. "Not tonight, but we'll talk about it." She nodded again. They took him home and made his favorite dinner, and that night Destiny slept better than she had in 4 months. The talking happened Sunday afternoon, on the back porch, just the two of them, with mugs of tea going cold on the railing. Marcus told her about the deployment without telling her everything, the careful version, the version shaped for her. He talked about the other soldiers, about the particular quality of silence in certain places, about how you learn to carry weight differently when you had to carry it for a long time. "The thing about people like Tyler," Marcus said, looking out at the yard, "is they're not really talking about you. They never are. They're talking about what they don't understand. And people get loud about what they don't understand because loud is easier than curious." Destiny turned her mug in her hands. "It still hurt. It's supposed to hurt," he said. "That's how you know it mattered. Things that don't matter don't hurt." He looked at her then, directly, the way he always did when he was saying something he wanted her to keep. "You don't need to defend me to anyone. You don't owe anyone an explanation about our family, but if you ever want to let somebody see who I actually am, I trust you with that." She thought about that for a long time after. The following Monday, Destiny went back to school carrying something new without quite being able to name what it was. She was still the same girl in the same hallways, still keeping her eyes forward, still pulling her sleeves down over her hands. But something in her posture had shifted, some quiet internal rearrangement had taken place over the weekend. In the cafeteria at lunch, she sat down at a table with two girls from her soccer team, Priya and Camille, who had seen her sitting alone before and had never said anything about it one way or the other. They made room for her without making a thing of it. Tyler was at his usual table across the room. Destiny looked at him once, assessed him the way you assess a weather pattern, and then looked away. It was Priya who asked, sometime in the middle of lunch, why Destiny seemed different. "I don't know," Destiny said honestly. "My stepdad came home." "From where?" Camille asked. "He was deployed. He's in the army." There was a small silence, the kind that meant people were adjusting their picture of you. "How long was he gone?" Priya asked. 4 months this time." Camille set down her fork. "That must have been really hard." And Destiny said, "Yeah, it was," and then she kept eating and the conversation moved on to soccer practice and whether the math homework was actually due tomorrow or Wednesday, and it was ordinary and warm and easy in the way that small true things can be. Word traveled the way words do in middle schools, which is immediately and in every direction. By the end of the day, people Destiny barely knew were aware that her stepfather had come home from deployment. Most of them didn't know what to do with that information. A few of them came up to her in the hallways and said things like "That's cool" or "My uncle was in the army" and went on their way. It was not a dramatic transformation. Real things rarely are. But Tyler Brent caught her by the lockers after last period, and there was something different in his face, some loss of the easy cruelty, replaced by something uncertain and younger looking. "Hey," he said, "I heard your dad's in the army." "My stepdad," Destiny said, not correcting it unkindly, just correcting it. Tyler shifted his weight. "My dad said some guys came back from over there and they were messed up. Like, not right anymore." Destiny looked at him. She thought about Marcus on the back porch, his mug going cold, his voice quiet and careful and honest. "Some do," she said. "Marcus is okay, but it's not easy." Tyler nodded. He looked like he was working up to something. "That thing I said in the cafeteria. About him being random. Yeah, that was messed up." Destiny studied him for a moment. He wasn't performing the apology. He was just standing there in the fluorescent hallway looking like an 11-year-old boy who had said a wrong thing and knew it and was trying to figure out how to put that knowledge somewhere useful. She recognized that feeling. She had it sometimes herself. Okay, she said. Thanks for saying so. He nodded again and walked away, and that was the end of it. The school held a Veterans Day assembly the following week, and Destiny's homeroom teacher, Mr. Alcott, asked if anyone had family members who had served and would be willing to have them come in and speak briefly. Destiny thought about what Marcus had said on the porch, "I trust you with that," and she raised her hand. Marcus came in on a Thursday morning wearing his dress uniform, and the thing that Destiny would remember for the rest of her life was not the uniform itself, though it was impressive in the careful, pressed way of things that mean something. What she would remember was the moment he walked into her classroom and looked around at 32 12-year-olds sitting in rows, and then looked at her, sitting in the third row on the left side, and his face did that thing it had done in the airport, that warm opening, that immediate uncomplicated pride. He spoke for 20 minutes. He talked about joining the army at 19. He talked about what service meant to him, not in an abstract flag-waving way, but in a specific and personal way, about the people who served alongside him, about the particular weight of being responsible for other people's lives. He talked about coming home, about the adjustment, about the way it could be hard to explain where you had been to people who hadn't been there. He was honest and plain and not showy about any of it. Then Mr. Alcott asked if the students had questions, and Tyler Brent, who sat in the second row, raised his hand first. "What's the medal for?" he asked, pointing. "The one on your jacket." Marcus looked down at the bronze star that sat above his left breast pocket. He was quiet for a moment in the way he was quiet when he was deciding how much of a true thing to say. "I helped bring some people home," he said finally. "People who needed to get home to their families." The room was very still. "That's what it's for," Marcus said. "Getting people home." Destiny looked at Tyler across the rows of desks. Tyler was looking at the medal. His face had that uncertain, younger-looking quality again, that open space where the easy cruelty used to be. He nodded slowly, like something was settling into place. After class, when Marcus was signing out at the front office and Destiny was walking him to the door, she slid her hand into his and he held it without commenting on it, just held it, the way you hold something you have been glad to come back to. "You did good," he said at the door. "You did good," she said back. He laughed, quiet and real, and walked out into the gray November morning, and Destiny stood in the doorway and watched him go, and she felt something settle in her chest that had been unsettled for 4 months, something quiet and solid and warm. She went back to class. She kept her eyes forward. But it was different now, the forward, it was not the forward of someone trying to survive the hallway. It was the forward of someone who knew exactly who was walking beside her, even when he was far away. Even when the letters were the only thing she had. Even when the hoodie in the closet had to be enough. That kind of love, she was beginning to understand, did not need to be explained to anyone. It only needed to be lived. And she was going to live it every single day.